And I thought I'd start real quick by giving you a little bit of my background so you know where I'm coming from in this subject. So I grew up in an alcoholic household, which is my dad was an alcoholic, my mom was addicted to drugs, and I didn't know any different, so that was fine. And I got certain benefits from that, like I became very self-reliant and that sort of thing. But I also became an alcoholic when I was when I was in my teens, and continued that way until I had to stop when I was in my 30s. And so then I got into addiction recovery. And at one point in that journey, like if I was to ask what first sparked your interest in trauma and PTSD and post-traumatic growth and all that sort of stuff, for me, it was coming across the literature on adult children of alcoholics. And what they found was that there, in the categorizations, there are several types of trauma. They talk about acute trauma and chronic trauma and complex trauma. And what I was experiencing were a bunch of the symptoms of chronic trauma without noticing it. It wasn't like I, knew that was what was going on, but that's what I was experiencing. And one of the things, there's like a laundry list of those that you can find online. And one of the things when I was reading it tonight really jumped out at me. It says, we live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our relationships. Like we have the view. Now, here's the thing. As I stand here today and I read that, I can't even relate to it anymore. It's so surprising to me because these days, what looks true to me is that it's not even possible to be a victim. Now, don't take my word for it. We'll get into that. So anyway, I recovered from alcoholism. I became fascinated with how people change and grow and that sort of thing. And then about 13 years ago, I got introduced to the principles behind clarity, and which is what we're going to be exploring tonight. And early in that process, I had some insights. And the first insight was I realized, oh, everything you've been looking for outside of you comes from within you. All the feelings of success, of happiness, of well-being, of peace, of security, they all come from within. So that made a big difference to me. Second insight, I realized the fact that a person can even see or hear or feel, the fact that a person can perceive, the fact that a person can have an experience means they have the source of resilience and realization and transformation and mental health already there within them. Well, I was working as a coach and as a trainer and as a therapist at the time. That transformed the way I worked with clients, because all of a sudden I could see that all my clients had good reason to be hopeful. It was like I suddenly saw, oh, you can be hopeful. You can be hopeful. There's something good going on here. Third insight. Well, I'll get to the third insight later if we have time. Anyway, so as I was preparing for this evening, I was thinking about what do I want to talk about? And I guess there's a couple of purposes I have tonight. One of my purposes is to help create the conditions for you to have the insights and realizations that are going to make a difference to you, whether that's make a difference to you to improve your quality of life personally and start the process of, or continue the process of healing your own traumas, or whether that's in your work with others. I put traumas in scare quotes because I want to talk about that. That's my second thing, is what I'm going to suggest to you. Well, actually, let me read you something before I suggest it to you. I'm going to read it first, so it's official. So this is from a book called Individual Differences in Post-Traumatic Response: Problems with the Adversity Distress Connection. So this is written by Marilyn Bowman quite a long time ago, but she starts the book saying something very, very interesting. Here's what she says. She says, what she was doing, she was very curious about trauma, and so she started exploring lots of studies about it, lots of papers, people who have been through it, and she found that the common understanding of it that was held by the profession didn't quite add up. So listen to this. She says, in learning how people respond to nasty and even horrible events, I've been struck by the tremendous range of responses. Some individuals become significantly disorganized and distressed by what was a minor event by any objective criterion, while others who experience a vastly more terrible event often show a remarkable resilience. Despite this, the idea that terrible life events have a significant power in affecting mental health has become entrenched in a number of assumptions within professional mental health disciplines and in popular thinking. In particular, the post-traumatic distress disorder diagnosis has served as a prototype for this thinking. And she says later that it encourages people to, she says, in the usage of the popular adversity distress model, individuals who have encountered what she calls a toxic life event, so an adverse event, individuals who have encountered a toxic life event are typically described as victims and survivors. And I remember that laundry list was saying, yeah, we live from the viewpoint of victims and are